Party with your host, Dustin Rybka.
Hello and welcome to Sex Party. I'm your host, Dustin Rybka. With me on the show this week is actor, comedian, writer, and producer Anne Marie Scheffler. Anne was humming along. She was married, had some kids, was a comedian doing her stand-up thing, found herself suddenly divorced. And after some turmoil and trying to figure out what happened, how that happened, she became a leader and a spokesperson for MILFs everywhere. She's the creator of MILF Life Crisis, MILF and Cookies. We talk about MILF movement. We talk about MILFs uniting. We talk about the power of being a MILF. We talk about the first time she had sex post-divorce and how that was life-changing, and all of the fun horniness she's getting up to on the road, doing her MILF content and stand-up comedy. This is a fun one. She's insanely fucking hilarious. You guys are going to love it. So without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with Anne Marie Scheffler.
This week's conversation.
Anne Marie Scheffler, welcome to Sex Party. How are you doing?
I'm great, Dustin. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah. We had some technical issues, as we often do in the podcast world. Listen, if you're going to start a podcast, be prepared for some tech issues. They just happen. And sometimes it's gremlins and sometimes it's, terrorism.
I want to say it's so apropos because your name, Dustin, to me is a very sexy name. Do you get this a lot?
I do not, but please proceed.
Because, I know you found me, through Rachel and Jackie, but mostly I'm sure I'm an interesting guest because I have a show called MILF Life Crisis. And the big joke is, being a MILF, you're divorced now, and then you start to have this new lifestyle where there's the young technician or the young podcaster in your world. And Dustin is like a perfect porn name. You know that, right? It's such a porn name.
You know what? No one has ever said that to me. And it's so wild. I just actually got back from AVN, the AVN Awards. I worked the red carpet and was there all week. And I don't think there's an active Dustin in the porn world, but we could fix that, I guess. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Let's see what we can do. Just planting.
Yeah, I could.
Planting the.
Yeah, I mean.
Planting the.
Well, eagle-eyed listeners of the show might recall that I've always had a fascination about getting myself involved with sex work. I've always wanted to do stuff on camera and this, that, and the other. And I always play with the idea of doing OnlyFans, and my girlfriend and I are constantly talking about all sorts of wacky shit and just whatever. So you never know. You never know what's going to happen on Sex Party. Let's just say, well, this is your first time on the show, but let's just say someone doesn't know about your show. They don't know what you do. They don't know who you are. They're like, what is this asshole up to this week? Could you talk a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yes. So I'm an actress, comedian, and I wrote a show called MILF Life Crisis. And, I do everything an actress does. TV commercials, voice work, TV series, and Endgame. I'd like to have my own TV series and my own movie career. So I'll keep you posted, Dustin. But in the meantime, I've made my living, a good part of my living being a comedian on stage, and most recently touring my shows. And this is a show called MILF Life Crisis that I feel like I'm the MILF. I'm the go-to MILF in the comedy world. So yeah, any questions?
No, tons of questions. Yeah. No, I mean, so had you been a comedian before you had gotten divorced? Did it come out of the seed of, okay, I'm now single and horny, I'm going to go be creative?
These are such good questions. Well, yes, I was a comedian already. I had a comedy, my 1 hour comedy special was debuting, I was pregnant with my first baby, my husband by my side, my in-laws, so I'm a career actress and comedian. And I always got to, you know, you get to play, right? Like that. I was 4 years old and I was like, I'm going to be a movie star. Like this is what I've been doing my whole life. I've been in the entertainment industry my whole life, and Second City alumni from Toronto, and doing lots of funny TV commercials and like the funny blonde wife and everything. And then when I was sort of growing up, I started to create my own work, and my first comedy special is called Not Getting It, and so it came out right when Sex in the City and Bridget Jones's Diary, and I was like, you know, in Toronto doing Not Getting It. I'm not getting married, I'm not getting laid, I'm not getting it. And that, like, they turned it into a comedy special on TV, and it still plays. And so I was like,
Wow.
well on my way to having this thing. And of course, just when I was doing the comedy special, I get pregnant, you know, I get married, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have babies now. And then I wrote a show, Suddenly Mummy, and it was all being, you know, it's, you know, being still trying to be yourself while being a mother. And then it was like, fuck, I'm going through a divorce. This is not supposed to happen. And I did what I always do. I turn it into a funny show.
Yeah.
You got to make it funny. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's funnier than divorce? Just kidding. No, but I do feel like I'm a very gallows humor kind of a person. Like if I saw a nuclear explosion in the distance, I'd be like, shots, shots. Like, are we doing shots? Like that'd be immediately where I go. And so I'm constantly getting like, you know, like everyone around me is just like, Dustin, like that's the tone they take when I make jokes, you know.
Inappropriate.
It's all about death and suicide and fucking hearts exploding and shit like that, because I feel like it's the only way you can get through it, you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
and it was, you know, it's also like not that I'm not ageless, like all women are, beautiful women are, but you know, I was in my fucking 40s, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This is when you want to divorce me? Like, can you not do it when I'm younger? So I was like, well, you have two choices. You know, you know, you're sad and you're old, or you rename it and you reclaim it and you make MILF like fucking people should want to get divorced. You know, like,
yeah,
that you get to go out with your MILF squad. You know. And it's like, you know, it became, it kind of became like a rallying call, like a clarion call to all the MILFs out there. So, so that's what I did.
Yeah, I mean, MILFs unite. I mean, what's crazy is if you go to Pornhub right now and you look at, I mean, you could like literally sit there and refresh for weeks and months and fucking years on end. And no matter what, in the top 3, it will always, no matter what, be MILFs, right? Right? They're always going to be there. It's just like this, you know, and now we're into like stepmom and fucking all that shit too. But like, it's always like this horny thing. And it's like, I can see the numbers on the back end of all my shows. And whenever we do something, it's just me here, but I do have an editor, and she's wonderful and a genius and all the things, but
and a
you know,
woman.
yeah, she's great. She's fucking awesome. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm surrounded by brilliant women, actually.
It should.
You know, yeah, thank you so much. The credit goes to them. But yeah, I mean, every time we do something on the show that has to do with MILFs in particular, it's like the line just goes straight up. Like the listens go up, the downloads go up, the views go up. I mean, what do you think it is about that? You know, what's sexy about being a MILF? I mean, we all know, but what you know, in your intimate sort of definition of it, right?
Yeah, I think there's, well, I have to say it, because if I don't say it on the podcast episode, I'll pick myself. But I renamed it and reclaimed it as Mothers Are Incredible, Lovely, and Fantastic. And then I have a new show that is MILF and Cookies, and I realized that you don't have to be a mom. It's like, you know, just being you know, my interesting lady friend. I saw that euphemism. Like, as long as you're a nurturing woman, as long as you're a woman, you're a MILF, you know? And so, but what's good about being a MILF, I've got to remember your question. It's like that you get to sort of step out into the world where you're whole, right? Like my third show is Whole MILF, just to pre-warn.
Nice.
I know. I can't stop myself. It's the whole MILFiverse, Dustin.
I love it. No, I really love it.
I'm writing the book of MILFs. The book of MILFs. I'm not even kidding. But because when you're a 20-year-old woman, you know, looking for a husband, you know, in your 20s and 30s, and you're like, I got to get married. I'm going to have some babies. You're not whole yet. I mean, you haven't had your babies. You're learning who you are. So to be a MILF, you know who you are.
Yeah.
You have your kids. You know, you're a whole new woman. Like you're like so arrived. And so then when you're like out in the world, I make this joke that it's almost like you may be too young for this show, but do you know the show Cheers? Like, yeah, okay.
Fuck yeah. Where everybody knows your name.
Everybody knows your name. And I love that show. And I think I'm like, as a MILF, I'm like the Sam Malone of the show. Because I'm like, okay, I got this. Me and my girls. And we're at the bars. We've taken over. It's the MILF Squad. We're wearing our leopard print. We've just finished our, 5 classes of yoga, hot yoga every single day for 5 days. You are so ready. And it's the guys who are like the Dianes who are like, are you going to, do you want a relationship? Am I going to see you again? I don't want to sleep with you on the first. And I'm like, we've turned into the men. We have turned the tables on, when you're dating in your MILF life, you're not young. And
oh my God. Yeah.
Now you're like, I'm going to use you and toss your naked body aside. Is that a problem?
I love this so much because this is such a great, we never get into this area of it, because I think you're so right. Like there's these young, dudes that are out there and they're not ready for what's about to hit them. And like I spent 15 years in the nightlife industry. And so we would know when a group of MILFs, mom's night out was a fucking thing, right? I specifically did like big Saturday nights, like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people every weekend, right? And you would just know when there were like groups of MILFs, like they're not going home without like at least fucking 6 fucking, milk and cookie shots or whatever it is. They're going to fuck somebody in the bathroom, in the Uber, fucking back at their place, his apartment, whatever it is. And you're right. You would see these guys just almost like, yeah, that's cool. And then they have a couple drinks and then they would just like panic because these women would just kind of like pounce, right? So we would always be like, oh shit, mom's night out, 10 o'clock, whatever. And they were fun. They were like the best because they had the wisdom. They'd already done the young party shit. Now they really know how to drink.
Yes, they do. Yes, we do. No, I agree. I did this U.S. national tour with a show called Spank, the 50 Shades of Grey parody that I co-wrote and co-starred in it. So for 3.5 years, I'm like in hotel rooms and on big stages and in limos. And we're bringing this show. The 50 Shades book was like this phenomenon of, it was written by a middle-aged woman. And so it sort of gave permission to the middle-aged woman to, be sexy. And so our audiences, and we were selling out 1,000-seat theaters, and these women were like, they were all in leopard print. It was their show. And then we get off the stage and there was set up a photo for the photo shoot with the good looking guy in the show. And because he was like fucking gorgeous. He was a buff, burlesque dancer, and so the producers expected all these middle-aged women would want to come and take pictures with them, but they would come and talk to me and the other actress, and I'm the middle-aged writer. I play the writer. I play, this kind of sexy version of the real writer who's like all sex starved and writes a fucking sexy book. And that was my role. And so they're coming to me and I'm in leopard print on stage and they're all in leopard print in the audience. And they're like, you're me, I'm you. And so it was so funny. They needed to find an avatar to identify with. And so that's when I came up with, well, I'm fucking writing a MILF show because these women need an event. They need an event to be themselves and be sexy. Because, there's in the old days, women kind of disappeared in the Middle Ages. Not anymore,
Sure.
I'm telling you, like just even the movies that are going on, like Baby Girl with Nicole Kidman. I mean, Sex Education. like that TV series with Gillian Anderson. Oh my God. That woman could not be sexier.
Right.
And so this idea that, well, I'm sorry, Anne Marie, you might be over 40. I'm like, I don't think that's an issue. I don't think that's an issue. And,
No.
and so you get out in the world and like, I'm literally with my girlfriends. Like I literally have a MILF Squad LA and a MILF Squad Toronto. And I'm willing to come to your town and be a MILF Squad, wherever, my tour goes. But like, we'll do things like we'll decide on, we're going to have a one night stand and that's it, and then, and these guys are, I can really, I can really relate to this one time where, this may or may not be true, but like, he was like hoping to see me again. I'm like, no, you don't get it. That's it. It happened. And, cause we're in charge. Like we get to be in charge finally.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you definitely turn the tables. I love that. And you're right. There has been this incredible shift of, and I almost think, I mean, we've moved away from even the term like cougar, right? Like 5 years ago, cougar was kind of still a thing, right? Mm-hmm. But like, I guess it sort of is now, but it's not so much because I think you're right. I think, back in the, I guess, early 2000s, 90s, 80s, whatever, there was like, oh, she's divorced twice and, look out for her when she has some brandy or whatever the fuck, right? There used to be that like stigma. And now there's not because, the divorce rate is way up. The sex rate is way down.
Yeah, that's true.
No women are coming. And so it's like the perfect recipe for, of course, there's going to be a crowd of 45 and ups who look great in leopard print tearing through your fucking town on tequila. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
But you're right. Like the Baby Girl movie with Nicole Kidman. I mean, I would argue probably even going back to like American Pie with like Stifler's mom and shit. Then you had all those songs like Stacy's mom.
Yeah.
Right. So we were like milfing our way to where we are now.
That's right. We're just explaining to the society that men get sexier when they get older. So do women. P.S. And we're happy to bring it to your town.
Yeah. Well, we're here in Chicago, so like let's go.
I'll come. I've done my show I'm Second City alumni, so I played MILF Life Crisis in Chicago at the Second City and sold out. So I'll be back.
So I can't say, because I feel like when you say you're Second City alumni, it means that you went all the way to main stage, right? I spent 2 years at Second City, 1 year in acting, 1 year in improv, which is terrifyingly awesome. And and I got a ton of trouble, which is great. And it's one of the best experiences of my life, those 2 years. But I never like tried out for main stage or anything. So I guess we're kind of Second City alumni together, which is great.
I'll take it, baby. You're in Chicago, and it's such an excellent city.
Yeah. For like, sorry, go ahead.
I understudied main stage. So if there's any fact checkers, understudied Jen Irwin at main stage, Toronto.
Yeah, Chicago is one of these magical places, and obviously we get a bad rap on the fucking news and the politics and oh god, whatever. But I've lived here, God, I don't know how long for this time, and I had lived here before, and it is just the most wonderful, horny, friendly, drunken, comedic place you could ever ask for. And like, if you're any of those things, if you're drunk, if you're horny, if you're a comedian, right?
It's a town. It's a good town.
If you're friendly, you can go into anywhere. I always say this: you can go into any bar in Chicago, and most restaurants, true, if you play your cards right, and just hang out for like long enough, and you'll leave with a date for the night and 2 friends, right?
Yes,
right? Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
That's just Chicago,
Yes, absolutely. That's beautiful.
Yeah. It really is. And so, being at Second City, everybody was fucking horny there, and everything, and everyone's like trying to like do the stand-up thing. I tried stand-up. I did that for a little while. They didn't like my jokes, whatever. I opened up for Jamie Kennedy, which is like a fun thing that I did or whatever. And like totally bombed the first set, and then like, because you do like 3 shows a night, as you know, and whatever, and then gradually took the jokes that were upsetting people out. But I mean, what do you think makes people who are attracted to comedians, what do you think makes them, because they're right up there with rock stars, some of the horniest, like, sex-driven people around?
What do I think it makes
yeah, why are comedians so fucking horny?
Oh, well, I think it's because the world is well, life is a hall of mirrors, and as a comedian, you're like you're up there and you're reflecting back to the world. Like, I didn't need to write a show about being divorced until I got divorced. Then I needed to write it. So then I go up there and I'm like, I'm you divorced woman out there who's not dead yet. And so then you start being like a channel or a reflector for the other people in the world. And then you feel their love, and you're like, so then you just become this love machine. So I'm not saying I'm horny, but I'm not saying I'm not, but I'm just saying maybe that answers your question. I don't know. Like,
sure.
Could it be that when you it's like, oh God, I saw this on, I'm sure I saw it on TikTok. You can go down the TikTok,
Oh yeah.
But I think it was like some old vintage footage of a rock band. Oh my God, Led Zeppelin, honestly. And they said they were being interviewed on a talk show in England, and they were like, we just want to be loved by everyone, everywhere. And that's what you want to do when you're saying, like, let me be on stage and tell our story. I'm going to tell our story. I'll do it. So you go up there and you're kind of in service, right? You're in service of what's going on in the world. Like we've just established. Yeah. This idea that you're over 45 and you're a woman and you're no longer relevant. I don't think anyone can hold that argument anymore. Like, that's so fucking gone. Like, there's so many beautiful over 45 celebrities, and so female celebrities. So when you're like up there and you're in service and you're doing this and you're showing up and you're like, it's not easy to do all these things. Like,
Right.
you did the stand up, it's like,
Sure.
a few of us are crazy enough to want to be on the stage, right? And so if you've got that crazy broken part of your brain that thinks it's a good idea, then you get rewarded by the applause, by the ticket sales, and then you go, maybe I want to be loved in different ways too. Maybe that's what makes celebrities very still active, from the waist down, still active, still excitable.
Yeah, and I mean, you're bunched in with a bunch of other people who have been on the road for however many weeks or months, and you're drinking, and everyone's in a fucking hotel room that they don't care about, and so it's like, of course we're gonna all have sex, you know what I mean, or whatever.
Oh yeah, like, it was very clear. Talk about being a MILF. It's like, so I'm in a position where I'm divorced, and now I've got the kids half the time, and then the time when I don't have the kids because they're with their dad, I'm in hotel rooms, I'm on stages, I'm in, after parties and bars. It's like, oh my God, I'm not dead, and I'm single. Are you kidding me? Like, that is like, I could never have written it for myself, because you get married, you stay married for the rest of your life. I did not foresee this coming. So yeah,
so it was a gift.
Yeah.
So, or you turn it into a gift, because that's what it sounds like. That's what you do.
Listen, I have a good quote, which is, take your lemons and take your lemons and turn them into lemon drop martinis.
There you go. Yeah. That's, I mean, what other better way to live is that? I mean, come on, right? That's a great, that's a metaphor, analogy? I always get them confused. Who cares? Anyway, so how long has it been since the divorce?
It's been 10 years.
Okay, so 10. I mean, okay, so it's not fresh, but it's still like not 3 decades ago.
Well,
whatever.
I'm a master MILF now. I'm telling you, I was a reluctant MILF at first.
Yeah, and that's what I want to go back to, right? Like, when the bomb first dropped, right? And you're welcome to talk about why it happened, but you don't have to. I would never force you into any corners on the show.
Unless
you can live free and live free and die hard all you want on the show, whatever. But shout out to Bruce Willis. We love him. But like when the bomb first dropped, you're like, divorce, you know, what was that like? What did it feel like? Did it just feel like obviously your whole world like kind of fell apart? Like, could you just go back to that place for a second, then we'll sort of advance?
Yeah, I thought it was for sure. I thought it was like never going to happen to me. Like not me. It would never happen to me. You know, I come from
Yeah.
a Catholic background, Polish Catholic, you know, and I'm just like my whole entire Polish family. Barely anyone ever got divorced. And so I was just like, yeah, that doesn't happen in my family tree. And then when it did, it was like, you know, it's like the hero's journey. First, there's the refusal of the call. No, we'll make it work. I'll stop being me, you know, and so I'll stop, I'll be whoever you want me to be, you know. So it was really like, and then it was like when I was like, you know, you can't, you know, you. Oh, I thought I was on Do Not Disturb. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it happens sometimes. This is fucking, yeah, no, you're good.
You know, it's of course men are texting me. Of course they are.
Yeah. Hey, what are you doing right now? Can I come over again? It was fun.
But
I heard you say lemon drop martini. Okay, so this thing happens. You're in denial, the hero's journey, and then you're like, okay.
But I'll tell you the next step.
Yeah.
Honestly, the next step was like literally asking my divorced friends, what do you do? And they're like, you fucking have sex. You start at like you get back out there. I'm like, no. And it's like, do you know what this thing is called? It's an app on your phone. And it's like everyone's explaining to me that this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's a get out of jail free card. I'm like, no. And so like, and you basically, you rally the troops, right? Like all of a sudden you're like with these women and you're like, I thought my family was over there. The ones that we're related to, the ones who are making me feel shameful. It's like, no, your friends are your MILF Squad. That's your true family. And so then all of a sudden you're like leaning into like these women who are like telling you the secrets to life. I hate to say this, Dustin, it's not nice, but it's sort of like, you know, I've had a few women say to me, maybe I've said it to them. Let's be, I don't know who said it, but here, let me spitball there. Let's just throw it out there. Like that, you know, the most incredible love, it's a possibility, is the one between mother and child. Like, you know, like, don't even think you did anything wrong. You have your kids. And you and your fucking husband is now your ex-husband, but he's your best friend now because you two have this, like, I mean, you don't become best friends right away, but you have this shared, you know, you want these babies to live and to thrive, you know, like it's this crazy thing to have a child. And like the way I felt about my mother, like I remember being 12 years old and telling her, I'll never, ever move away from her because I loved her so much. And it's like separation, try to stand on your own two legs. It's like that. Love is the best thing. I mean, love, sex, everything, but love, like anchoring love codes on planet Earth. That's my job. Like if anyone, you know, that's my fucking job. And it's like, well, there's so like when you fall in love, oh my God, you can, like, it's an elixir. Like you don't ever like, of course, it's the falling in love is my favorite. And then all of a sudden, you know, to have that experience, a love experience of having a baby and having children and then walking out in the world and you're just like, you love that other person so much. It's on par with falling in love with your soulmate, your twin flame or whatever, but it's different. And it's like this crazy, powerful thing to be, you know, to have babies, to have children, like, and so then your girlfriends are like, yeah, your husband wants to divorce. Let him be. You're going to be fine. You've made incredible children. You've got really good things going on. Stop crying, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jesus, I've been through, I've never been married. And I, you know, I can't even imagine, but I've been through, you know, breakups that felt like someone had like cut something out of my back, you know, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is this feeling? And like, I was for the longest time, right? I was like the fucking nightlife dude who just like can't remember people's names and shit. And there's strippers in the bed and there's fucking multiple women multiple times and fucking where am I and whatever. And then you go through like you're in a relationship and you're like, this is really great. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit. Oh shit. Why am I not texting any other woman? What's going on here? And then, however long that lasts, and for me, it varied, but those couple of times where I had some gnarly breakups, like, you're you're driving around during the day, and you're just blasting, insert, for me it was like Frank Ocean and like whatever, like really loud, and you might stop at the tavern for an afternoon shot or two, and then next thing you know, you're coming to in a bathroom stall with a stranger and you're smoking a cigarette and you don't smoke. So if that's a breakup, I can only imagine just the brutalism that divorce would be. I've had the crazy thing is I'm the one that they call when they get divorced, and yeah.
You're the MILF whisperer.
Well, okay, there's that too. I'm actually the one they call when they are. I used to be the one that they would, and the fucking listeners are like, "We know, dude, shut up." But at one point in time, I would say 80 to 85% of the women that I was communicating with were all either married or had a boyfriend. And I was like, this isn't boding well for my trust in humanity. Like, I don't blame them whatsoever. I have no judgment whatsoever. And I never took that with me like, some incel idiot or anything would, right? But to me, it was like, something these guys that they have, either we're all just like wanting attention and wanting to fuck, or their partners are really flopping, right? And then sometimes they would share stuff with me and whatever, but maybe it was a mix of the two. But a lot of my dude friends who got married, right, and I was in some of these weddings, I'm the one they call when it's like, when they know it's going to happen or it just is about to happen. And so I've been on a lot of those trips where you're in some other city. You're like, hey, you're driving awful fast at 3 a.m. Like, so I've been there in that. So I can only imagine what it would really actually feel like and how crazy that intense that is when you finally get off, in that you're off the leash into this new world, right?
Right. Yeah. Being off the leash in the new world. That's so true. I mean, that happened to me, and I wrote a show about it. And yeah.
So tell me about that first show that you wrote, because I'm super intrigued.
So like the MILF Life Crisis show, it's like, it's really it's doing that, like I really in real life waited a year after my marriage ended before I started to like have sex again, because I just thought maybe he's going to come back, or maybe it's me, or I'm too vulnerable, and the kids, and I gotta, my heart is broken. And so then it's like when the moment that you're like, oh, I think I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be more than fine. I think I'm actually good at this. Then
bing.
Yeah, that's right. So that's kind of the show. Like, that's sort of like the trajectory of the show. It's like literally the hero's journey of, this is the ordinary world. I'm married, the call to adventure, the divorce. And then it's like, really the show's just like going through all the Tinder dates and all the fucking ridiculous moments you find yourself in. I mean, like I had to sort of fictionalize a lot of real life stories because things happening to me. Like it's like, it was kind of, it's kind of funny because I am a small town girl. I came from small town Ontario, Canada. So I had a bit of a sheltered upbringing, and then you get out into the world and you're like touring and you're doing, comedy, and you're in different cities, like in the US and Canada. And then you're like, oh my God, us girls we're in the power seat. Like, they fucking love us. Like we're running the show. It's like going to a buffet and yes, no. And it was like, oh my God. And so the show really kind of, I'm celebrating all these fucking sexy, all these sexy events that are happening, or like a lot of it is based on real life, but a lot of it is also stories that were told to me, and a lot of it I have fictionalized and adjusted to protect the innocent.
Sure. Yeah. You got to change the names for sure.
This is an
Yeah.
entertainment. It's not a documentary. It's entertainment, people.
Yeah. I change names on this show all the time, so I know exactly what you mean. Okay, what kind of material were you doing before the MILF stuff came into play?
Oh, I was. It's a great question. I was doing the show that was previous is called Suddenly Mummy, and in fact, it's licensed in German, and it's like being performed in Germany, if you can imagine.
Nice.
It's a real solid piece of theater, and that was all about being a mom, and like I went from a party girl to a mom, and like that. So the material was like, oh my god, this motherhood thing is like crazy. So that my comedy albums, I got a couple of those are turned into comedy albums as well. So it is like I was doing the motherhood material, and before that I was doing the dating material, about being in your 30s and dating and not getting it. So I do kind of grow with my audience, and I talk about what is happening to me now, in real time. So but just
so would you go ahead.
I was just going to say that there was times when I was creating the MILF show, the material for the MILF Life Crisis show, like I had things happen to me in real life, and I was like, oh, this is so going in the show. And my director was like, you cannot put that in the show. That is, if you ever want to have friends again, like do not do, like, for instance, can I tell it here? Like,
yeah, there's no rules here.
And so we'll say it's a different city, but like, again, to protect the innocent, I was in a situation where there was like a younger dad at the school that like we were like, things were happening. And it was like, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Like it's on topic, it's on brand. A woman gets divorced, and of course she's going to take up with somebody at the school in the playground. This is ideal for and then my director's like, you're going to ruin your whole friend circle. You're going to ruin his family life. Do not do it. So I had to remove it, but
but it happened.
Maybe.
Yeah. Maybe not. We don't know. Well, it sounds like the MILF thing was really your George Carlin moment where you're like, you know what? Fuck this. We're gonna go all in, baby.
Yeah.
And so then you did that and became this, this other. You evolved, transitioned into this like, oh my God, this is what I meant to do. Thank God I got divorced.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I never wish divorce on anybody ever. Ever. And thank God my ex-husband is like super cool and smart and handsome and fantastic. And my boys are brilliant, so like shout out to good ex-husbands. And, really, honestly, but also to say, I did have a moment because we were going through that whole Me Too stuff. And I was like, oh my God, am I making the world worse by having a MILF show? Like, am I making, am I taking, feminism backwards? And so it's like, I actually was working with a story editor named Jill Golick, because I also create the TV properties and the movie properties, Endgame, Fame, Fortune, take over Hollywood. And I was working with my story editor, Jill Golick, and I'm like, what do you think? Should I not do MILF anymore? And she went, are you kidding me? Who's going to tell a woman don't tell a woman what she can or can't call herself. You're in charge of the whole MILFiverse. Write the book of MILFs, Anne Marie. Write the book of MILFs. And I fucking am writing the book of MILFs. And it literally, like what you said, it's like, I embraced it. And like MILF and Cookies is about daddy issues. Like that's the sequel to MILF Life Crisis. It's daddy issues and like, exchanging power for love, and understanding the second chakra, to be very specific,
I'm sure.
and like Santa Claus, and like kind of growing into like I'm the guys I'm dating now, they kind of look like Santa Claus, like I'm aging into it, and it's like not that I'm not also
oh my God.
So I mean, did I get to but and then the whole MILF is the next stage, but really not being afraid to embrace this acronym and turn it into something powerful. And females who are mature are fucking fantastic and actually, very sexy and perhaps even ageless. So there you go.
Yeah. And I mean, I think there's an energy that comes with acceptance of that, right? Where it's like, yeah, I'm fucking 40 something. I may or may not fucking want to do this or that or whatever it is, but this is how I'm going to go out there and like be myself. I'm going to go to these fucking bars. I don't care if these fucking, and now it's like all the young dudes, whether or not they get devoured is on you guys, the MILFs, but like they would rather go home with a MILF than sometimes than like a normal 22-year-old fucking hot chick, because it's like, imagine the experience, that you would get or whatever. And I mean, come on, when you're in your early 20s having sex, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing, at all. And I would imagine nowadays it's probably even worse, right? Because of all the fucking everything, everywhere, all at once, in fucking whatever.
Yeah.
And so, I just think there's a power that comes with that acceptance of you keep talking about, like, okay, MILF it is, fucking, we're serving them fucking straight up. Here we go. And there's and you do notice that in someone who is post divorce or maybe they never even got fucking married, right? They're just accepting of their place in life. I think DILFs, it's not sticking. Like, there's no, like, I don't know, like, I don't know. People like are still trying to make dad bod a thing. Like, I mean, whatever. I mean, to each their own, but I just don't think that any of that, the same, like, it's weird. People like like dudes will like say like how masculine they are, but then like they'll like go over and like steal terms from women like DILF, dad bod, like, no, but what the fuck, so it really does work, I think, for the femininity, portion of the population to just really get out there and own it. And when you just like don't give a shit, there's like such a power in that. So that's fucking awesome. Do you remember the first person the first hookup situation you had after the divorce?
Oh my God, do I remember? It was like, oh my God, it was like going to the well and drinking water after being in the desert. It was like, oh my God. And he tries to contact me still, and I not interested. But it was like fucking, I could not even tell you. It was in a hotel.
Okay, so we're off to a good start here.
And I literally, like, I was, it was a big show. I was on stage, and so it was like I knew that I would be. Well, that's the thing. When you get off stage, you've got the adrenaline, right? And if you just like been fantastic for like some time, and you're like, okay, I think I need to get laid. And so it was, it was all sort of teed up, and he yes, he was younger, and and he was gorgeous, and he was nonstop, and he was like, he was such a gentleman, and it was like, it was all about me. It was all like, I was like, oh my God. And it was just, it was hotel room sex, for 3 days. And that was like the first out of it. Like, I sort of waited for a year, and then this happened. And then it's like, okay, we have reset. The world is different now.
Okay, so wait a minute. Where did you meet this fine young gentleman?
He's musician, also a performer. Now I'm getting very specific. The people in my
Well, you don't have to give a name. I'm just saying. He's a flute player in a band. Okay, there you go.
And it was in English.
I fixed it. Yeah.
Paris. But yeah, I think. Well, what? Also, like, what it's like to be with other creatives. When they're So, when you recognize each other out in the wild world, and it's once you get past, it's after 11 p.m. at night, and no one's going to sleep until. So you figure, like, I think also for me, I kind of had to embrace the fact that I'm in the entertainment industry. I'm not a normal mother. Like, my kids, I mean, I feel bad for them sometimes, but I also feel like if I stayed married, I would not be able to just sort of like fly my MILF flag. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, because their
No.
dad is super stable, you know, and I'm really honest with who I am. And so they shake their heads, but I think they're proud of me, you know?
Yeah, they have to be. Come on.
Yeah. Well,
um, no, go ahead.
I
Go
was
ahead.
just going to say, it's like we want to teach our children and ourselves and each other, like to be authentic, to be present, to be clear, like to say what you mean, what you say, and say what you mean. And
Yeah.
so for me to be a mom who's like trying not to be an actress or trying to, you know, only do funny things but not get it out in the world, it's like, okay, people, we're going to have to explain. Your mother's she's an actress. I'm sorry. You know, she's a comedian. She's got shows called MILF Life Crisis, and she's
Yeah.
a MILF. She's the fucking MILF poster child. So tell your girlfriends, you know, that's what their mother-in-law's like, you know.
Well, I mean, and you're also like preaching this like fun, like twisted empowerment thing. It's fucking great, you know, because we need more of that. And I think, you know, the world is moving into such a unknown, like chaotic place. I mean, you know, your home country keeps coming under attack of being taken over. That's all that I'll say about that. And like, you know, or whatever. So I think we need more radical. If the bad stuff is punching down, right, then we should be like hulking out, just going nuts, like empowering everybody, right? Because why the fuck not? I mean, you know, and you could say all the cliche things in the world. Oh, we're only here one time, blah blah blah. What the thing is like the bottom line is like nobody wants to be on their fucking deathbed at 90 fucking 9 and be like, I wish I would have fucked that bellboy, or you know, that's like the one thing you don't want to do, you know. And so I love that you're doing that. How could your kids not be proud of that? I think, you know, the funny thing about kids is, and as they grow up, and I don't have any kids, thank God, but, and I don't want any kids, thank God. But, you know, the funny thing about kids that I've noticed through all my friends and, you know, nieces and nephews is that they always recognize real, right? And they, whether they want to like fuck around and throw shit around the car or they want to be dicks, like deep down inside, it does seem as though they have some sort of like a like respect for real. And so if you're being real, how could they not respect that, you know? Especially if you're gonna like, you know, sell this shit off to Netflix and bring home a bag.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so you bang this young dude, and then is it just like you're like, oh, it's like sex for fucking like every fucking night? You're hitting up a different town, you're tearing up the city, you're getting arrested, they're putting up posters. Like, do you go bonkers and start having sex with every young man that comes to your show, or what?
Well, I love this is the fucking funniest answer to this very good question, Dustin. It's that happened. I came back to, you know, I got back on the plane and left. In fact, I changed my plane ticket so I could stay with him in the hotel longer. Of course I did.
Of course.
Dirty mummy. You know, my kids, I'm like to my ex, can you keep the kids longer? You know, it's like,
Oh my God.
You know, I totally like once I got out of the gate, you know, galloping. So that was beautiful. And then I came back to my home, my single lady home with my kids every other weekend. And I thought, oh my God, I found him. I thought, oh, whew, that was easy. And like, you know, he flew to me. I had a gig I shouldn't say the city. I had a gig in a city, a sit down, and he flew to that city, and we were in that hotel for a while. And I was like, well, that was easy. The first guy I slept with, done. Yeah. I'm so in love. This is incredible. And then after, you know, that happened for like, I think we did that for 4 months. And then he's like, well, you're going to move to my city here. And I'm like, no, are you going to move to, you know, LA? And like, he's like, no. And I'm like, oh, this was like, had to happen, but this is not my second husband, you know, this, like, I had to like, you know, I literally had a therapist explain it to me. Like, right. Remember when you met and married your now ex-husband, weren't you on a trajectory? Weren't you on, you know, why are you stopping everything and turning it to follow the man. Like I did that. Like we fought, like, well, I think we do that. It's not just men and women. I think when you fall in love, you're like, I'm going to be your life is now my life. And I was about to do that with this guy, or try to convince him to do that with my life. And we were in way too different locations. And I was like, oh, sex can just be sex. I could have lots of it with different people and love them. Like, because I loved this guy. I loved him. I loved him for seeing me. I loved him for releasing me. I loved him for knocking on the door and pulling me out and doing things that I've never done before. And I was in my 40s, and this guy was doing things like, how do you go get that law? How do you get to your 40s and have that not happen to your beautiful naked body? And so I was like, he was everything. And then it's like, oh, this can be good and get better, and with other people, and there could be more, and it could get better, and you could get better. And it's like, what? It was fantastic.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and so then you just were like, no, thanks. And then you started seeing other tons of other people.
Yeah. It was pretty clear that, like he was sort of, we love, like for about the next year or two, we would be understanding that if we could be in the same location, we would be. And then there was like this time, this is so like we were in the same city, and I knew we were going to hook up, and we were like looking at the schedule, and I said, well, I would really like to get off stage and go to your hotel room. Like, that's what I want. And he was like really hemming and hawing. I was like, what is going on here? Like, this is me, remember? And he's like, are you sure that night? And I'm like, yeah, that night. He's like, no, the night before. I'm like, not the night before. That night. And he's like, no, because he was also in the city, like it, he had like 4 days, I had 4 days, it was an event. And he was trying to do his schedule, and then he was just really clear with me. He's like, look, there's another woman that I sleep with when I'm in this city, and that's her night, so I can't switch her. So if you can't do the other night, then I can't see you in the city. And I was like, okay, I'll take the night before, and I just had to be like, put on my big girl pants and like know that I was going to be in that hotel room bed on night number 1. She was going to be in there night number 2, and just be like good with it. And like, Polish Catholic girl from small town, was like, this is the life of a MILF,
Well, yeah. And again, like, I think there's a maturity in realizing that sometimes it's like, it's sex. We're looking scheduling. There doesn't have to be a bunch of weird shit around it. I've had a lot of those kinds of relationships too, where we weren't together, but we were we might not talk about it in front of one another, or maybe we would in some certain situations, but like, where you're just sleeping with other people, and it's like, it's just a thing, it's, whatever in the fucking 80s, they were like, oh, casual sex. Well, I don't think it's called that anymore. Right. But like, you just I would venture to say it's just maturity, right? Like, where you're like, hey, I'm gonna get it on night 1 so she can have it on night 2, because I'd rather not be night 3, because whatever, but like, at least you slid in there first. So that's
for me. The sloppy second stuff, forget that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it does just go to show. I mean, you said a lot of things about, like, you had all this like crazy sex in your 40s, and you didn't even know that it could be like that and whatever. And like, that's the bigger issue here, right? Yeah. It's that MILF and now MILF culture, which you've helped along here. You're and welcome. Been a huge, obvious, influence on, and are going to continue to. It's that MILFs are, having these experiences because they're not having experiences in their life or in their marriage, right? And that's the bigger issue. That's unfortunate. Why don't married people have fucking wild sex after a couple of years go by? Why do relationships flop out or whatever? Those are the bigger issues, because it's like, and we can get into a whole thing about like women's pleasure and all of that, because it is a man's world, and it's a man's fucking whatever, and it doesn't make it right? It just means that like there are issues where it's like, if you actually shut the fuck up and listen, I think, and it's my own opinion, so take shots at me all you want in the fucking comments, but I think if you just kind of like listen to women or listen to a woman, that in itself to me is just like a lot of what we're not doing is men. I don't know
Oh
what
my
the
God.
fuck. No wonder they're running around with athletes and shit.
Well, listen, I love exactly what you're saying. Oh my God, because in my show, MILF and Cookies, the young guy I have sex with in that show, I do talk about my escapades in the comedy, obviously. This young man says to me, Anne Marie, what do you like? You know, it's this big thing about what do you like, you know, and like maybe when you're married, your husband doesn't ask you what you like. But if you're out there with this guy you picked up at the bar, you know, and he's like, Anne Marie, what do you like? You know, it's literally you know, a woman's world. Like you just said it. It's a man's world. It's been a man's world for a long time. So let's just, for the sake of, you know, shits and giggles, what if it was a MILF's world? Like, what if, you know, you're in a situation where there's all these beautiful women in the, you know, back patio at the bar, and they're fucking hot, and you're the young men, you know, and you know they're calling the shots whether or not this evening ends the way you want it to end. And all of a sudden, like, you're sitting there going, what do you want? And they get to say, well, I want this and this and this. And, you know, so it's like, I feel like everything is a microcosm of a macrocosm. And so, you know, for what happened to me is like, I didn't want to be the face of divorce or, you know, or take a term like MILF, which is, you know, but listen, okay, if it's what but then what do I want it? I want it to be so good and so sexy and so empowering and so equalizing, right? Like now it's not like, well, you know, if you're not a 25-year-old, you know, look like this in the Playboy Mansion, you're no longer sexual. How about this? How about you're like, whatever, as long as you are fully in your body and you're a woman, you are sexual until you tell us you're not sexual. And you step fully into your sexiness, doesn't fucking matter what age. And like, that's the new norm. Like, let's rewrite the, you know, what sex is and what MILF means. And, you know, and that's why people, I think what happens is that we died earlier. You know what I mean? Like we're living longer. And all of a sudden your kids are fine and they're on their own, and you're like in your 40s and 50s, and you're like, am I dead? No. You know, am I going to have sex again? Yes. Am I going to have a lot of good sex? Yes. You know, and so I think it's just evolution, you know?
Yeah, no, I think that's amazing. I want to close it out, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, but I want to close it out. Like, let's say there's a woman listening, watching. If we're still on YouTube, who knows? Censorship is a fucking thing. But if they're invested in this, they've made it to the end of the episode, and they're like, I think I want a divorce. I think he's gonna divorce me. I just got divorced. I'm terrified. I'm scared, whatever. Maybe there's a man listening, right? And his wife just fucking kicked him and whatever, right? For anyone, but specifically for MILFs. Shout out to the MILFs, right? It's a MILF's world, like you said. Give them some advice, because like, who better to give it?
Oh, I love that. Thank you. I would say the advice would be, you know, always come from a place of love. Like, love yourself, love the other person, love the kids if there's kids involved, and, you know, love yourself enough to say, I want to honor everything, right? I want to honor a man. If a man doesn't want to be married to me anymore, I want to honor that. If I don't want to be married to a man anymore, it really comes down to love and honor. And it's surprisingly, marriage is not the be all and end all anymore. You know, being good people to each other, being like literally coming from love. Like, I love everybody, but I really want you to think about loving yourself. Love yourself. Does that make sense?
No, I love that. No, that's fucking awesome. Anne Marie Scheffler, thank you so much for being on the show with me this week. Let's tell these, you know, wonderful party goers where they can find you online, social media, where they can find tour dates, where they can buy things from you, what you have coming up, all of the stuff. Plug it away.
Yeah. So come and see me anytime. I do tour US and Canada, and I'm willing to go other places. And so you can go to MILFLifeCrisis.com, AnneMarieScheffler.com, MILFandCookies.com, the Book of MILFs. Like, you could probably Google MILFs and find me, but MILFLifeCrisis.com for sure. And I hope, and of course, social media. You'll find me on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube and Facebook. So I look forward to, us following each other.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you for being with me. I look forward to having you back because there's going to be a lot to follow up on, and we'll do this again. Thank you so much.
Oh, Dustin, I forgot to say I'm doing a show
Sure.
March 8th for International Women's Day at the Meaford Hall in Meaford, Ontario.
Nice. Okay, so we do have a base in Canada, and I see it all the time, right? Which actually, you know what? I want to ask you one last thing, because I have some notes on this, but whatever, and we'll keep it short for those who thought we were leaving. But it's my show; I can do what I want. Do you think Americans or Canadians are hornier? And the reason I ask is because I feel like Canadians are more undercover about it. And you guys, like in Canada, they have and correct me where I'm wrong because I'm wrong a lot, but they have more lax sex work laws. So that's a fun thing. And they have healthcare there too, I hear. So who do you think is hornier, Canadians or Americans?
I think Americans will jump. I'll jump into a bed. I think Americans jump into bed faster than Canadians, or maybe it's just my friends in Canada. I don't know. I feel like, Americans are goers. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah. We will accept that answer. Yeah. Well, they're already running over to your social media and your website and all the things. So thank you so much for being with me on the show. We'll do this again very soon.
I love it. Thank you, Dustin.
Big thank you to my guest, Anne Marie Scheffler, for being with me on the show this week. Make sure you go check out everything she is doing. Take in one of her shows. Follow her on social media. It's awesome. You guys will appreciate it so much. I do. She's fucking hilarious. And she will be back. If you guys are loving guests like Anne, you want to see her again, but mainly you're just loving Sex Party, and you're loving all the different guests we have and all the crazy, wacky shit that we do. And you want to show that love, that appreciation, that devotion, that desire for more, that hunger to never miss a sex party. What can you do? Well, if you're listening to this on platforms like Apple or Spotify, you could leave a rating, you could leave a review, but honestly, fuck that. It's a waste of your time. All you got to do, and what you really want to do, is make sure that you just subscribe to the show so you never miss a new episode every single Wednesday. If you're watching on YouTube, I love you. I see you. I appreciate you. If you're watching on YouTube, have you ever been through a bad breakup, a bad divorce? Leave me your story in the comments. For real, leave it. We'll correspond. We'll share some pain. I'm all about it. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to make sure that you show some love, some appreciation, but mainly the desire to never miss a new episode, what can you do? You could like this video. You could like all the videos. You could leave me comments. We've already gone over it. I love talking with you guys. But the main thing you want to do is make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss a new episode every single Wednesday. I am always available in the DMs on Instagram, and I will see you all right back here next week.
Thanks for listening. The party continues next week. Click subscribe and let's make this a regular thing. Follow the show on Instagram and Twitter at SexPartyFM. Follow Dustin at Dustin Rybka.